Some moments looked ordinary from the outside, so small that the world barely notices them, yet inside those moments entire lives quietly change. It began on an afternoon that felt heavy with exhaustion, the kind that sinks into bones and makes even breathing feel like effort. The city moved as it always did, crowded, rushed, indifferent. People passed one another without seeing faces, only shapes. Somewhere between missed chances and silent prayers, a young woman stepped into a bus station with her heart weighed down by disappointment she had learned not to speak about. She had not planned to be there. Her schedule had collapsed, her plans had fallen apart, and all she wanted was to sit down for a moment and let the noise of the world fade. She chose a seat without thinking, dropping into it as if guided only by fatigue. She did not know that the seat she had taken was usually empty, avoided, or reserved by habit rather than rule. She did not know that this single mistake, this simple act of sitting in the wrong place, would become the turning point of her life. Her shoulders were tense, her eyes distant, and her mind replayed the quiet failures she carried with her every day. She had worked hard, loved deeply, trusted fully, and still life had left her standing alone more times than she could count. In that moment she felt invisible, like someone forgotten by both people and fate. Across the station, a man sat observing the world with the weary calm of someone who had survived storms no one else knew about. Life had shaped him through loss and responsibility far too early. He had learned discipline, sacrifice, and silence. Faith had been the only thing that stayed with him when people walked away. He had stopped expecting miracles, yet never stopped believing in purpose. When his eyes lifted and landed on the woman sitting in that seat, something unsettled stirred within him. It was not attraction or curiosity, but recognition, a strange sense that something had shifted, like a quiet whisper in his chest telling him that this was not random. She remained unaware of him at first, staring ahead as if searching for answers hidden somewhere beyond the concrete walls. Time passed slowly. The station echoed with footsteps, announcements, and impatience, yet around her there was an unusual stillness. The man watched as she adjusted her bag nervously, her hands trembling slightly, revealing a vulnerability that felt painfully familiar. He saw a reflection of his own past struggles in her posture, in the way she carried herself like someone used to disappointment. This is where the story truly begins, in the silence between two strangers brought together by nothing more than a simple mistake. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that God places people exactly where they need to be, take a moment now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Stories like this are meant for hearts that still believe. As the minutes passed, unease grew inside the woman. She sensed she did not belong there, that perhaps she had taken something that was not meant for her. Doubt crept in, the same doubt that followed her everywhere, whispering that she was always in the wrong place at the wrong time. She considered standing up, leaving, disappearing again into the crowd where she felt safer being unnoticed. But exhaustion pinned her down. She stayed, unaware that staying was the bravest thing she had done in years. The man noticed her hesitation, the way her eyes darted, as if she expected someone to correct her existence. He felt a pull to intervene, not with words but with presence. Something in his spirit told him this moment mattered. He reflected on his own life, the times he had questioned why things happened the way they did, only to realize later that every delay, every detour had carried meaning. He wondered if God was reminding him that purpose often hides in interruptions. The air between them grew heavy with unspoken understanding. Neither spoke, yet something connected them beyond logic. The station was no longer just a place of waiting, it had become a crossroads. Outside, the sky darkened slightly, clouds gathering like a promise of rain. Inside, two lives hovered on the edge of change, neither yet aware of how deeply they were about to be tested. What neither of them knew was that this seat, taken by mistake, was about to unravel truths they had buried, wounds they had ignored, and faith they had almost lost. The mistake was not an error, it was an invitation, and once accepted, there would be no turning back. Life rarely changes loudly. It shifts quietly, through moments that feel insignificant until they are looked back on with trembling gratitude. The woman remained seated, her thoughts heavy with memories of failure and loss. She had recently faced setbacks that stripped her of confidence. Dreams she once held tightly had slipped through her fingers one by one. She felt as though she was constantly trying to catch up with a life that refused to slow down for her. Sitting there, she questioned her worth, wondering if she had somehow fallen out of favor with God. The man, watching from a distance, felt his own past rising to the surface. He remembered the seasons when responsibility crushed him, when he had been forced to grow up too fast, to choose duty over desire. He had lost people he loved, not to death alone, but to misunderstanding and time. Faith had kept him standing when logic failed him. Seeing her there reignited something within him, a reminder that he was still meant to serve a purpose beyond survival. The station grew busier, yet their small corner felt untouched by chaos. People rushed past, unaware that two souls were being reshaped by silence. The woman finally stood, gathering her things as if preparing to flee. But as she moved, her foot caught slightly, almost sending her stumbling. The man instinctively moved closer, ensuring she did not fall. The moment passed quickly, but the impact lingered. She steadied herself, surprised by the presence she had not noticed before. Something about him felt grounding, familiar, safe. That brief moment became the crack where light entered. The woman hesitated, then slowly returned to her seat, her heart racing for reasons she could not explain. She felt an unexpected sense of peace, as though leaving would mean abandoning something unfinished. The man returned to his place, his chest tight with emotion. He knew then that this was no coincidence. He felt certain God had orchestrated this meeting, not through words, but through timing and space. As time passed, their silent awareness of one another deepened. The woman's breathing slowed, her posture softened. She felt less alone, though she did not know why. The weight on her chest eased slightly, enough for hope to peek through the cracks of despair. The man closed his eyes briefly, offering a quiet prayer of gratitude. He asked not for answers, but for guidance. He trusted that whatever was unfolding had meaning beyond his understanding. The storm outside finally broke, rain tapping against the station windows. The sound felt cleansing, symbolic. The woman watched the rain and felt tears sting her eyes. She had spent so long feeling misplaced, unwanted, and unseen. Yet here she was, in the wrong seat, feeling more seen than she had in years. She realized that maybe her life was not a series of failures, but a path being redirected. The man sensed her emotional shift. He did not intrude, but his presence alone felt like reassurance. He reflected on how many times he had helped others while ignoring his own need for connection. This moment reminded him that even the strong are allowed to receive grace. He understood then that God does not only use people to save others, but also to save each other. Minutes turned into something deeper than time. The station announcements echoed again, signaling departures and arrivals. Reality began to press back in. The woman knew she would have to leave soon, return to her uncertain life. Fear crept in again, the fear of stepping back into loneliness.
She wondered if this calm would vanish once she stood up. As she prepared to go, she paused, taking one last look around. Her heart felt fuller, though nothing obvious had changed. She did not know his name, she did not know his story, yet she felt changed. The man watched her gather her strength, silently encouraging her to move forward, to trust what she could not yet see. Sometimes God answers prayers not with miracles, but with moments that remind us we are not alone. This was one of those moments, and neither of them would walk away unchanged.
The woman finally stood, her movements steadier than before. She felt as though she was carrying something new within her, a quiet courage she had forgotten she possessed. As she walked away from the seat, she did not feel like she was leaving something behind, but like she was carrying it with her. The man watched her disappear into the crowd, his heart heavy, yet peaceful. He understood now that his role had not been to speak or to stay, but simply to be present at the right moment. After she left, he remained seated, reflecting deeply. He realized that God had used her presence to remind him of his own purpose. He had grown comfortable in solitude, convincing himself that strength meant standing alone. Yet this encounter showed him that connection, even brief and silent, could restore faith. He felt renewed, as if a chapter he thought was closed had quietly reopened. The woman stepped outside into the rain, letting it soak her hair and clothes. She smiled through tears, feeling lighter than she had in months. She did not suddenly have answers, money, or certainty, but she had something far more powerful: hope. She realized that being in the wrong place had not been a mistake, but an alignment. God had seen her exhaustion and placed her exactly where she needed to be. In the days that followed, both of them felt subtle changes. The woman approached life with more patience, trusting that delays were not denials. Opportunities began to appear, not magically, but meaningfully. She made braver choices, believing that she was guided, not forgotten. The man, too, opened himself to connection again, offering help, kindness, and faith where he once withheld it to protect himself. Neither ever forgot that seat. Neither forgot the quiet understanding that passed between them. They never met again, yet they remained connected through the purpose that moment served. God did not bring them together to stay, but to remind them both that He is always present, even in mistakes. Just before we end, take a moment to comment below what this story made you feel, or share a moment in your own life where something unexpected changed everything. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that you are never truly alone and that even mistakes can be divinely guided, please like, share, and subscribe to support this channel. Your engagement helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Sometimes the wrong seat is the right place. Sometimes a mistake is a miracle in disguise. And sometimes God brings someone into your life not to stay forever, but to remind you that you are seen, loved, and never walking alone.